I did want to then touch base about some of the standout performers from the Liverpool-Newcastle game, and we have to start with Rio Ngumoha because I believe he turns 17 in a couple of days, so he's still 16 years old, and to score that on his professional debut for Liverpool, it's not an easy finish. So what are we witnessing? Because everyone has been talking about how he can make an impact in the first team, and while that seemingly was true, the games that we did see him in were preseason, but to make an impact in the Premier League is just amazing. And, I think of, and I'm not trying to compare the players, but I'm thinking of when Kylian Mbappe broke through at Monaco. And I'm not saying that he'll be Kylian Mbappe, but it's just the level of talent at this young age. It's not normal.
No, absolutely. And, sometimes you kind of report things and people, sometimes you're reporting things that people don't want to hear. And so you might get a little bit of stick on social media. And kind of one of those, I think, I've seen this summer really is mentioning that Ngumoha is going to be a genuine option for Liverpool. I think people have thought that's an excuse not to make a transfer, and I didn't specifically report this line, but I know others have around kind of, they didn't want to sign Barcola, for example, because they don't want to block Rio's pathway, and people don't like hearing that because, as I say, it feels like an excuse to not make a transfer and to save money or whatever. And but in this case, it's just genuinely true. And I think last night completely underlines that fact that they do genuinely believe they've got a special talent on their hands, and that you cannot block those talents when they come through and you get them, because, they never then will fulfill the potential if you are sat on the bench most of the time. So, and I think what proved it to me last night is not even the goal, really. It's the fact that Slot turns to him. I mean, how easy is it not to do so in that situation? It's horrendous atmosphere. You've thrown away a 2-goal lead. You're up against a team that are just kicking lumps out of you and are so physical. Throwing on this kind of diminutive 16-year-old in that situation, you could easily say, well, you're killing him by doing that. But he just knows how good he is. And he comes on and he proves him completely right. And this is why they don't want to block his pathway. This is why everybody I've spoke to who's been close to pre-season has been saying this kid's been unbelievable in training, as he was in the friendlies. To be fair, he kept scoring in those as well. And so when you get someone like that, don't block them, use them. And he is a genuine option. And so, when you look at the forward line, Chiesa sticks around now. You've got Ngumoha there who is going to play games. He's just worthy of that. And, that forward line starts to look a little bit more healthy, doesn't it, as well? They could definitely use one more. And I think we know who that's going to, hopefully be, and who we're going to talk about, no doubt. But Ngumoha is there, and he's absolutely one of those options. And that Mbappe comparison, you might want to be, might be wary about using that. But it's true in the sense that, the comparison I would use to make it more Liverpool-centric is that he's a Michael Owen or Raheem Sterling, who you don't hold back till the 21. You just use them, because if you're ready at 16, ready at 17, then put them in the team and let them fly, because that's the level of talent that we're talking about. And Rio is absolutely in that bracket.
Yeah, to see his face off in the celebrations and afterwards when he was doing interviews, it's just really nice to see him so happy and just playing with a smile on his face. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the rest of the season. But as good as he was, I don't think Liverpool would get that victory against Newcastle without some of the more senior stars. And I think against Newcastle, the standouts there were probably Szoboszlai at right back, Alisson in goal, and maybe especially Virgil van Dijk, because every time that Newcastle went long into the box, it just seems like he dealt with it. So what did you make of those three performances at St. James's Park?
Yeah, I think you're spot on to kind of highlight those. I mean, it's a strange one with Van Dijk. I think he wins kind of 5 out of 9 aerial duels, which in a kind of normal game, you'd be like, that is terrible for him. He's usually kind of 8 or 9 out of 10, 8 or 9 out of 9, for example. He usually wins basically everything. And so for him to be beaten a few times, you'd kind of look at that on paper and think he didn't play so well, but it's the ones that he did win were so crucial. I mean, there was one right at the end where he has no right to beat Dan Burn to it. And, again, even the ones he wasn't winning, he was making it really difficult for them to do anything with. His leadership, I loved, there's a few scenarios where Liverpool's players were getting a bit kind of caught up in the madness of the game and the physicality of Newcastle, and he's just dragging them away from the ref. He's like, I'll deal with it. He was the constant contact with the ref. And just organisation, keeping people's heads. I thought he was fantastic in that, and he's just pure class in his defending, as we always know. So, yeah, brilliant performance from him. Probably not helped by the guy next to him as well. I thought Kanate had a bit of a poor game as well. So for Van Dijk to dig him out in that way was useful. Alisson, you know, kind of, you can't think of a great save off the top of your head. There probably wasn't one really in the game. What he was brilliant in, handling, punching, dealing with aerial stuff into the box, cutting out those low crosses that are coming across the box that you think, oh, if he spills this, it's a goal. Straight into his hands, keeps hold of it. He's so useful in games like that. His handling is just second to none, really, for me, amongst goalkeepers, probably in world football. And then Szoboszlai, to do that shift out there, you know, I loved it. There was a couple of moments actually. He gets kind of stood up twice by Harvey Barnes, or Harvey Barnes gets played in down the left a couple of times in quick succession. I think it's in the first half. And that was the moment I thought he's going to be okay here at right back, because he gets out there really quickly, but he doesn't dive in. He makes it difficult for Barnes. He gets tight enough, but not too tight so he can get megged or easily beaten. And he forces Barnes back twice. And I just thought he is going to be absolutely fine here. And he was. And you know, a couple of moments where he cuts the ball out at the back stick, or a couple of crosses coming in, and he's the man who's there, really just intelligent defending and exactly what you'd expect from a right back who's played a million games there. So, you know, I thought he was really good in that, and just he never stops running as well, does he? So, yeah, so they were very important to it. And they, you know, it's a chaotic game, and Liverpool still concede twice. But I thought the fact they're even with a chance of winning the game in the end is because of performances like that from the senior players, really.